Penguin Random House Audio presents The In-Between, Unforgettable Encounters During Life's Final Moments. This is the author, Hadley Vlahos. The stories in this book are based on my work as a hospice nurse. I've changed the names, identifying details, and medical information of all the patients and some other people mentioned in this book to protect their privacy. The goal of my book is to share the wisdom and impactful advice that my patients provided me. Introduction. People are often startled when they hear that I'm a hospice nurse. They ask me how I could do such difficult and sad work day in and day out. While it's true that there are tough and sometimes even devastating moments in this line of work, there are many more beautiful ones. Moments of awe that make you stop and think about what it all means. Moments of deep love and the kind of wisdom that comes only from understanding that the end is near. So, while a lot of people might not understand why someone would choose to do my job, I consider myself lucky to be in hospice. Hospice care occurs when people have been medically deemed to be near the end of life and choose to stop treatment in a hospital or medical setting and instead spend those final days, weeks, or months in the comfort of their home, surrounded by loved ones. As a hospice nurse, I'm there to help guide both the patient and their loved ones through the process and to keep the patient as comfortable and pain-free as possible. Hospice can last for up to 6 months, so in the process of this work, I get to know patients, their stories, their loved ones, and even their pets. The stories in this book will share how inexplicable, powerful, and moving those moments leading from this life to whatever comes next, and I do believe there's something next, can be. I'm sharing these stories because there are so many misconceptions about both death and the process of dying. I get it. And I certainly don't have all of the answers, even though I've seen death enough times that I have a general idea of what to expect. We don't tend to talk about hospice or death very much, but I know people are interested because I'm asked a lot of questions about it. Some people are generally curious about death and dying, while others have a specific reason to be interested in it. Usually because they have a loved one in hospice, about to be in hospice, or who has been in hospice. Or maybe they're about to go into hospice themselves. One of the questions I'm asked most frequently is how I became a hospice nurse in the first place. It's a natural question, especially for someone as young as I am. I turned 30 while I was writing this book, but I was 24 when I got started in the field and way younger than everyone else I worked with. I still am. And my journey to becoming a hospice nurse certainly didn't follow a linear path. My childhood dream was to be a writer, and a nursing career never even crossed my mind when I started college. But looking back, I can trace how a series of events prepared me for this work. For a lot of people, death can be a taboo or scary topic, but it wasn't in my family. My mom's parents were licensed embalmers and funeral directors, and my mom grew up at and around funeral homes and morgues. If you've seen the movie My Girl, then you understand what I'm talking about. It wasn't unusual for her to do her homework while bodies were being embalmed nearby. Because of the family business, death was very literally a part of life, and so it wasn't unusual for dying and the topics surrounding it to become part of our dinnertime conversations. I grew up with the understanding that death was natural and it felt normal to me, not scary or mysterious. I was also raised with a fixed belief system about what happens after we die. I attended a private Episcopalian school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana until I was 10, at which point my family moved to Destin, Florida, and we continued attending an Episcopalian church there. My class spent every Wednesday morning in the large cathedral on campus, and everything we learned was centered around the Bible. Even in music class, we only sang worship songs. My family life also centered around the church. We went every Sunday morning and regularly attended social events there as well. I believed every word of what I was told. I believed in heaven. I believed in hell. I believed in the 10 Commandments and everything else I was taught to believe. I didn't question it. I just believed, and I didn't think twice about it. Then, at 15, the world as I knew it ended. It was a typical Friday night in high school, and just like most Friday nights, I was standing on the metal bleachers watching a football game. I had face paint on my freckled cheeks and held my best friend Hannah's hand, screaming along to the drumline as it played our school's fight song. I watched the football sail through the air and then drop into my friend Taylor's hands, which caused us to cheer even louder. And then, in a flash, 2 players from the opposing team hit Taylor, pushing him down onto the grass and ending the play. I watched as Taylor struggled to get up and then, once on his feet, appeared to shake it off and run over to the sidelines. I don't think he's okay, Hannah said, squeezing my hand harder. What? No, he's fine, I protested. A few moments later, an ambulance arrived at the sidelines, and I watched in confusion as Taylor was taken away. Hadley, something's wrong, Hannah said again. I'm sure he just broke a bone or something. We can write something super funny on his cast. Hannah nodded, and we turned our attention back to the football game. Later that night, we went back to her house for a sleepover. We stayed up way too late, giggling, painting our nails, and applying face masks. At one point, Hannah's mom stuck her head in the door and firmly told us, "Bed. Now." Hannah rolled her eyes, but we obliged. The next morning, we woke up and pulled on our Sophie shorts and t-shirts to head out to the school car wash, still groggy from staying up way too late the night before. When we arrived at the parking lot outside the church, I realized everyone was crying. I stopped and looked at my friends, perplexed. He died, my friend Ashley said, looking up at Hannah and me through her tears. Who died? I asked, still confused. I assumed it must be someone's grandparent. Taylor Haugen, she replied, choking out his name. He didn't die, I scoffed. He's fine. I just saw him yesterday. I texted him. I spun around and walked away from the group, already calling Taylor's number so I could prove to everyone that they were reacting to a stupid rumor. The phone rang and rang and rang until it finally went to voicemail. I hung up and called Taylor's best friend Chase, knowing he'd be able to clear things up. As soon as Chase answered, I said, "Everyone here is saying Taylor died. Please tell me what really happened. I know he didn't die." Chase's voice sounded oddly flat. He died last night. I would later learn that Taylor's liver had burst when he was hit by the opposing team members. While he might have appeared to be okay as he got up and walked to the sidelines, the reality was that he wasn't okay at all. I didn't understand why Taylor couldn't be saved in the emergency surgery that was performed later that night. Isn't that exactly what the medical profession was supposed to do? Save people? Especially young, strong, healthy people like Taylor. For a long time, it didn't feel real. Sure, I knew this type of stuff happened, but it happened to other people, not to my friends. It felt like a bad dream, incomprehensible and shocking every time I realized anew that Taylor was gone. When he didn't walk me to fifth period, or show up for movie nights with our group of friends, or text me. Even after the initial shock had worn off, something in me changed after Taylor died. I had understood death, of course, but I understood death as something that happened at the end of life, not at the beginning, and not like this. For the next year, I was angry at everyone, at my friends who carried on with life like nothing had happened, at the football players who hit Taylor, and especially at the priest who preached about how loving God was. I knew that a lot of people turned to their faith in times of loss, but I just couldn't. I had too many questions. Gone was the unquestioning belief that had shaped my early childhood. My
Sample complete. Ready to continue?